Hello YouTube, Reseller Mom here. Welcome to today's video. Today's video is the second part, it's part 2, of a special video series I am doing about IP violations with your Amazon seller account. So, this is the second video. There should be a total of 4 videos. 3 I have done slides on. The first one was what is an IP violation, the very basics on what they are, how they will come onto your account, and how to tell if they are kind of fake or not fake, if they're real IP violations. This video is going to be on how to resolve those violations. We're going to get really in-depth. This has a lot more slides than my last video. We've got a lot to talk about here, including sample plans of actions and retraction letters and everything ins and outs of stuff on how to get these violations off your account. And the third video will be preventative measures that you can take for your account, some different options there. And then the last video that I will do for this whole series is going to be more question and answer. So if you have any questions, very specific questions, or if I haven't covered something, or maybe you have something to add, go ahead and leave them on the comments on any of these 3 videos, and in a couple of weeks I will put together kind of a follow-up with anything that I missed or any specific questions that you have. We're going to give this a little bit of a timestamp though. Today is the 7th of April 2021. I will have the last video done before the end of April, so after April 2021 I will still answer comments to videos like I always do, but I'm not going to do any other special videos for these IP violations in the immediate future. We will always be visiting this topic for sure, but I put a lot of work into these slides to kind of get the ins and outs and a lot of the basic questions answered, but you know, things always change. So let's start off first by, I want to show you my disclaimer. Disclaimer slide. I went over this in the last video. I'm not going to read it all, but basically Amazon is always changing. I never ever recommend buying counterfeit items to sell on Amazon at all, and my information is based off of my experience, and I am trying to share with you guys the information out there. You know, there's a lot of information out on the web, and I want you guys to take note as to when it was offered, because as time changes, information may not be 100% correct anymore. We'll get into some of those things as we go on, but Amazon is always changing. It's crazy. The other thing that I did want to note with the disclaimer is everything that I'm showing you I have pulled from free to subscribe Facebook groups or from Google. Now myself, I have things that friends have shared with me, I have templates I have purchased, I have things that lawyers have written on my behalf that I have paid for. But I'll tell you right now, anytime I have paid for content for somebody to come up with me, that's not in my power to then share with you guys. But I can share with you my lawyer's name, but I'm not going to share what my lawyer writes on my behalf with you guys for reasons, moral reasons? I don't know. I'm sure I'm obligated as well. I'm sure I signed some sort of contract there. Same with templates that I have purchased. Now, what do you do if you receive an IP claim? We talked about this in the last video, but here we are going to go into in-depth on everything here. So the first thing is to remain calm, read exactly what is written in your notification from Amazon, and again, that notification is going to come by email. It will be in your account health dashboard, and you will have it under policy notifications under your account dashboard as well. You're going to gather up all your information. We don't want to make any knee-jerk reactions to Amazon. Often the first instinct is to write back Amazon very angrily and say, I appeal this IP claim because I would never sell fake stuff and this customer is full of baloney. Yeah, that's not going to fly. You could say that in your head, certainly say it to, you know, I say it to my dogs in the office, you know, how ridiculous sometimes these IP claims are, but your written appeal to Amazon needs to be very professional, well thought out, and completely put together, tied with a bow, so that anybody looking at it will obviously file in your favor and there is no questions asked. So we're going to gather up our information, we're going to make a plan. We got to make a plan. And then if we are in the right, we're going to continue to fight that IP claim until we win. Don't give up. Sometimes it can get very tedious. There are people out there, I think my last IP claim, that was a doozy. I fought it for 6 months. I must have submitted 8 different POAs. I worked with the rights owner. He retracted the rights, or he retracted the complaint at least 5 times, and finally we got it to go through. But sometimes these battles are very aggravating, and they just don't really need to happen. But until the system changes, we have to work with what we're dealt with, right? As we go through this, I'm going to give you guys a lot of information. Feel free to pause the video, zoom in, see what I'm talking about, Google it, find more information about it, etc. Write some notes down so that you can start building your file of information for when you get an IP claim. If you sell on Amazon, it's not a matter of if you're going to get an IP claim. You will at some point, and you're going to want to have any of that information as you come across ready to go, or at least some notes or something. Start a little file, whether it's electronic or in a notepad or something, so that you can remember, oh yeah, I remember talking about that, I remember this or that, and already have a head start to answering that IP claim. I am going to add a few links down below, but most of my slides you're going to have to, if I tell you to go Google something, you're going to have to go Google that. But this is the first link down below that I will have. I came across this doing research for you guys. This whole series is about 100 slides long, and this section alone is about 60, I want to say, about 50-60 slides. So there's a lot of information, and I came across a lot of good stuff too. So this thread, this gal, Oneida Books, goes through a lot of things on how to address your Amazon IP claim and suspension, etc. And it was too much information to copy and paste. It was a really good vlog. I actually really liked it. It is a bit on the older side, 2018, so it's about 4 years old. But you know what? If you don't like my explanation, you can bookmark this. You can go read her explanation. I have a whole bookmark on my Google Chrome that's just for IP complaints. And I have in there other people's videos. I have other people's blogs. I try to share with you guys what I can with that. I have pretty much everything that I'm showing you guys. I have bookmarked there in case if I need it in the future, because I may not need it today, but I might need it in 6 months. I might need it in 2 years. So it's good to bookmark. So anyhow, this link is down below if you want to go read their explanation on appealing Amazon and things like that. Gathering information. Like I said, get your notes ready. So I have a file in my hard drive. I have been switching over to Google Keep, so now it's in Google Keep, but any other I have some files still in my hard drive, but in general I'm trying to get over to Google Keep. I keep a copy of the initial policy warning. This is great to kind of reference at hand, just really quick. Sometimes I even print it out and put it on my desk, because I'm going to highlight everything that Amazon is asking for. Sometimes they really want a retraction, or they're asking you to put the company's information down, and they want very specific things that you are going to have to list out. So you want to have that policy warning, and you want to do exactly what's in that policy warning. No more, no less. They don't want to hear a whole bunch of fluff. They don't want stuff that's not in that warning. They're going to see if that warning matches up with what you are giving them. That's very important to know. I've had some issues with that in the past, both myself and seeing it with other people, where they are forgetting something as simple as the company's phone number wasn't on the invoice, and that's why it's getting kicked back. So you don't want to miss the little details for sure. In this folder, I'm also going to keep all the receipts and the invoices. I want both the original and the ones that I'm annotating. We're going to go over annotating your invoices shortly here. Somebody had asked earlier for ungating if I annotate invoices. If I'm just using an invoice to get ungated with something, I don't typically annotate it, but if you are submitting it for something very specific, such as a policy violation, you're going to want to annotate it. I'm going to go through several examples of what an annotated invoice or receipt look like. Research on the company, company brand information, any sample plans of actions that are kind of related to what I am in the hot water for, any advice or websites that I want to come across. I'm going to have a spot to keep all of my research. I have an ongoing file in my Google Drive that is just recommendation of things. So if somebody recommends a really good lawyer or a really good plan of action or anything like that, I'm going to go ahead and copy that and put that in my research folder so that I have that going forward. Credit card payment statements. So if you paid for that item with a credit card, you're going to want to possibly, not always, dig up that credit card payment so that you can show that you paid with a card that's in your name or in your business name and have that statement on file. It sometimes comes helpful. Plus any sort of emails. So if you email a company for a retraction, you're going to want to save that email as a PDF and keep that all together. So each one of my files is named after whatever that IP complaint is. I mentioned in my last video I got one from Lucetta Hair Oil Company, so my Google file is called Lucetta Hair Treatment, or Lucetta Hair I think it is, and everything that I am doing working on that POA is in the Lucetta compartment. And of course I have just my general research folder that is anything that I might need going forward. Inbound or disposal Amazon shipments. So Amazon is going to say, hey, you got an IP complaint, and I'll just keep with Lucetta for this example. And they want to know how much you bought and all of the shipment information. So my invoice, if I bought 10 Lucetta hair oils, which that's what I did, I need to have an invoice that shows that I bought 10. The price on the invoice is going to match my credit card statement. My inbound shipment to Amazon is going to have 10 of that product. When I recall that product or whatever I do with that product from the IP complaint, I'm going to show where that product went. So if you have 3 that went to customers, you're going to want to show that, and you're going to want to show that 7 were destroyed or shipped back to you so that you can account for everything. They want to account for everything. Now sometimes they want it within the last 365 days. If you don't have it for the last 365 days, let's say your items are 2 years old or whatnot, go ahead and provide that. Don't throw your hands up in the air. Go ahead and you know, give them what you have and see how it goes. It'd be better to try and fight it even if your invoices are over whatever date they are trying to do. But in the end, you need to prove how many you bought was how many you sent into Amazon and how, you know, where that product went. You're going to have any screenshots of the product details, any reviews, any voice of the customers, anything that you can think of about this product. So if you're getting a trademark issue with, you know, I don't know, something with the NFL, but there's nothing about the NFL in the product listing, and it has something to do with whatever you're fighting, you're going to want to take those screenshots, and trust me, Amazon has changed their detail pages before, and you'll want to make sure that you have screenshots of whatever is applicable. Don't think, oh, I'll go back and do that screenshot 3 days later. It might be updated 3 days later and not in your favor. So go ahead and as you're collecting that evidence, go ahead and put it into the file that you're working with. Customer returns, complaints, comments, voice of the customers, etc. You can go to your fulfillment page on your account and go ahead and find all of that. So I have had complaints of authenticity, and I really, this one drove me crazy. Somebody got a pair of Under Armour joggers, sweatpants, and thought the material was too thin, so there's no way it could be authentic. It felt fake to them. Amazon is a bot. That's not real people that work there. At least that's what it feels like, right? So if the bot picks up that a customer says something is fake, you're going to get a suspected IP complaint, and you're going to need to track down that customer comment and put that into your plan of action, that you received this because of a customer comment and it is not fake, and here are my receipts and my plan of action going forward. So my point though is get organized. Gather your stuff up and get organized. I also, as I'm naming things, make sure that you name it really well. So if this is your credit card statement, you know, name your file as Visa payment for Lucetta on April 7th, 2021. Whatever naming convention you have, you want to make sure everything's good to go, because you will be submitting those files and you want to have them named in a way that makes sense for whoever's on the receiving end, whether it is the brand owner, your lawyer, or Amazon. Those files, name them appropriately. Don't name them garbly-gook. While you are gathering up your information, you're going to start jotting down a plan. What is your plan? Maybe give yourself a few days to put together and to work on your plan of action and gathering up your information, and you're going to submit on whatever day. While you're coming up with this plan, make sure you're following any deadlines. Sometimes they give you a deadline. You don't want to miss that. Guess what? If you're on vacation and Amazon gives you a deadline, guess how much they care? They don't. They still are going to hold you to that deadline. It doesn't matter if you are in surgery or on vacation. They do not care. Do you need receipts or invoices? This is going to affect your plan, because if you only have receipts, invoices are not going to work. We'll get into that a little bit later. The contact for retractions. A lot of times they're going to want you to have the brand owner retract the statement. They're going to give you a contact name. Sometimes that contact name and email goes out to the void. It's not a legit email, so you might need to call the company and get a different contact, or do some searching here. Pretend you're Sherlock Holmes and do a little bit of digging. Plan of action. You might spend the most amount of time on this part, but coming up with a good plan of action is going to be needed for sure. So you're gathering up your information and you are making a plan. You need to start jotting down how you're going to get help. Everybody needs help. At the very least, you should have somebody that's available that can review your plan of action, your POA. That could be your friend, your spouse. I've definitely had my spouse review mine before. I have several friends that I would trust to read something. You're going to have them look for grammatical errors, spelling errors, and more importantly, show them the violation and say, does my plan address the violation? Be honest. You want honesty. You don't want somebody to sugarcoat things for you here. If they read your plan of action and they say, I have no idea what you're talking about, then it's not good enough to send into Amazon, because Amazon, it needs to be very clean, straightforward, to the point, easy to understand. And if your friends and family can't understand it, then Amazon's going to kick it back to you. I can guarantee you that. Facebook groups are awesome. There's two ways you can approach your plan of action there. A lot of times if you post the exact violation and your outlined plan of action, people will chime in and tell you if it looks good or bad or what to improve. I've seen some really good help out there. Now remember to redact any personal information you don't want them to know. Maybe you don't want them to know the specific ASIN or etc. on there. And if you're not comfortable doing that, you could simply post, hey, I'm looking for somebody to give me an honest review on my plan of action that has a few moments for me, and I'm sure you will get somebody that will help you. Lining up a lawyer. Do you need a lawyer or a paid service? Off the top of my head, probably not, but you want to have a lawyer or some sort of paid service, kind of an ace up your sleeve. If you're not getting anywhere with your plan of action and you've done a couple of appeals already and you're not getting any retraction from the brand owner, then it might be time to pay for a service. So I'm going to talk to you guys about this, and in my solution video, which will be video number 3, I believe I lay out my lawyer and a whole bunch of paid services that you can do, and of course they're tiered. So I give you some very economical choices, because honestly, you know, a lot of us cannot pay $3,000 for a lawyer. We need something that's in the $500 or less price range for the level of business that we're currently doing. You need to think about how many times are you going to appeal, or can you appeal and submit a POA. This is a little bit tricky here. Some people say that you do have a limit on how many plans of actions you can submit. Whenever I've talked to the reps over on Amazon, they say as long as you are submitting different information or redoing your entire appeal, you know, you're not just submitting the same thing over and over and over, you can keep working on your case. But if you start just taking the same appeal and spamming it to Amazon, they are going to shut you down. So you want to walk that fine line there. Unfortunately, it's like most of Amazon's secret sauces, we don't know the exact formula. So it's hard to tell on that and give you guys an exact number on how many times you can appeal your violation. I wanted to give you guys a good example of a Facebook post and the responses to that post. I really do love Facebook, and I do spend a lot of time trolling the boards there, reading anything I can get my hands on that is to do with Amazon that could help me out business-wise. I know I live such an exciting life, don't I? But I love reading all these things and seeing what other people respond to, and if it's any sort of information that I need to write down, I do copy and write it down in my little notepad so that I can go back to it or mark it in my bookmarks or put it in my Google Sheet. But there is a lot of amazing information out there. So in this particular post, somebody's writing about an IP in trademark infringement problem. You can go ahead and pause the video if you want to read the whole thing verbatim. What caught my eye in this was the email address that was provided to them is not really a good one. It's a .org.il. I don't know if that's valid or not, but I would definitely see if that is a valid email address. If it's not, this person is going to have to track down a company contact either from the company website or maybe LinkedIn or something to get in contact with the brand that is claiming trademark infringement problems. I do see this quite a bit, that the email addresses are not really good. We're going to talk about that more in this video. The other thing that I really liked and had kind of forgotten about is that if you have a trademark issue, you can sometimes edit the trademark name or image out of the listing, and that sometimes will work to clear up your issue. And I had forgotten about that, but my point is that you should be reading up anywhere that you're comfortable with on these types of things if it has to do with your business, and keep abreast of to whatever's going on in the Amazon world, because I'm telling you, it changes all the time. But keeping up on what the current issues are and how to address those issues will make it less scary if and when you do get an IP issue, IP complaint. So the first part is gathering up the information. We're going to start with the very basics. In that policy notification, you want to get the ASIN. It's going to give you the title and some other stuff, but I always start off with the ASIN. From that ASIN, I'm going to plug it into Inventory Lab to see where did I purchase it, who was the supplier, how many did I purchase, and what the cost was. That's the first things I'm going to grab, because that information allows me to go get the receipt. If I know I ordered 3 from Target on the 12th, then I can go grab my Target receipt. So I'm going to get all my receipts lined up. Sometimes I have more than one supplier or purchase date, etc. I need to get all of the receipts pulled for all of the inventory in question. I'm also going to go search the closed batches so that I know what was sent into Amazon when, and I have all that batch number information. You just go into closed batches in Inventory Lab, search by ASIN, and it will tell you which batches that ASIN was in. Then I'm going to go over to Amazon, back to Amazon, Seller Central, and I'm going to go to my Amazon orders, usually my FBA orders, because I think every violation I have had has been on an FBA order. But I'm going to go over to the FBA orders. I'm going to put in again that ASIN, and I'm going to see how many went out to customers. So then I have all of that. I am pulling all this data and either compiling it into files, Word documents, Excel sheets, whatever makes sense. Sometimes one format makes more sense than another. Sometimes I just take screenshots and put them into a Word document so that I can have that information at hand. Amazon wants to know exactly where all of the inventory was purchased and where it all ended up at. So I am going to check my inventory. Sometimes I have it in stock, sometimes I don't. From that in stock, sometimes I'm going to recall it, sometimes I'm not. If I recall it back, create a removal order, I am going to note that removal order number. It will be in your orders again you can search by ASIN. Sometimes it takes a minute for your order to go through. So if I recall a product today, I might get it shipped out in a couple of days. So you may not have that right away, but again, notate all of that. When you go to put together your plan of action, you're going to want to say with conviction that I purchased X amount on X date from X supplier, X amount was sent to Amazon on X date, and X amount of customers received the product, X amount was left in inventory, and I either have that still in inventory or X amount was returned to me on X date. You want to be very precise as to where all your inventory has come from and where it is currently. The next areas that I check for research is customer complaints. I have seen a lot of people get blindsided with violations and they have no idea where the violation came from. It's like out of the blue. It's a mystery to them, and Amazon is not going to come out in their violation unless if it's from a specific brand and they have the brand owner and the email right there. If it's just some other violation, they're not going to tell you where it came from, and a lot of times it's triggered by keywords that customers will put in some sort of response on their platform. So you got to do a little bit of digging. I wish Amazon told you, but instead we have to play Sherlock Holmes. I love Sherlock Holmes, but I don't always relish doing the groundwork here. My first go-to area to look for these things is under Amazon Fulfillment Reports. You're going to scroll down. My screen wasn't big enough, so pretend the screen's bigger, and you're going to scroll down and you're going to click on Fba Customer Returns, and it brings you up to this page right here. You can plug in the ASIN and date range and find out what was returned with that ASIN, and then look at the customer return reasons. A lot of times you can click on these blue links. It means it opens up and you can get a little bit more information. So sometimes they are triggered right there. This is important to know if you're doing a plan of action. You can't just write a plan of action and say, I don't know what your problem is. I have no problems. Nobody's complained about anything. This is an out of the blue thing. No, you can't write that. You have to write something that's, you know, the root cause is due to a customer that bought this item on the 5th and they had this response and we've investigated it. You know, you gotta do a little bit of digging here. Okay, so if you can't find it under Fba Customer Returns, anything going on there, the next area you may want to check is your voice of the customer. I don't have really anything to show you here on my board other than this is what my board looks like. So if you get a lot of the same complaints, it's going to trigger on this board and it will eventually trigger some sort of violation. So you're going to want to know that too. This is where those violations can come from. Invoices and receipts are technically different. Receipts are confirmation that you have paid for something. Invoices are, you know, just like a bill that you need to pay for something. You need to annotate them either way. When I do ungating and I use invoices to ungate in things, I usually do not annotate my invoices, but for any sort of violation, I'm going to annotate the receipts or invoices. I'm going to show you several examples of that. Basically, you're going to highlight anything that they are asking for. You want to make it easy for them to read through that receipt or invoice to find what they are needing. Sometimes it's good to list out in your appeal bullet points of what they're asking for, such as number 1 is the ASIN that is the ASIN that's requested. Number 2 is the quantity purchased and sent in to Amazon. Number 3 is the supplier name. Just depends on how you want to do it and how you want to format it. I've heard pros and cons to a lot of different formats of submitting invoices and receipts. If they absolutely want an invoice, and some violations really you only can send in invoices, receipts will not work. It's going to show right here, an invoice to indicate that your products are authentic. So if you are sending in receipts and you are constantly getting rejected with this line right there, then you're going to need to move on and get the retraction from the right owner sent directly to Amazon. This is what happened with my Lucetta. I had a receipt. It was an online receipt from Sierra, and Sierra is owned by, oh, I can't remember if it's Ross or whatnot, but you know, a discount company. And having an online invoice or an online receipt was pretty laid out. I mean, it showed Sierra's website, it showed Sierra's address, it showed Sierra's confirmation, and you know, I annotated it beautifully, and they still would not accept it. And when I called and talked with the account reps, they said at this type of violation, receipts were not going to work, that I needed the retraction from the rights owners. So in this rejection blurb here, they want either a letter of authorization, I'm going to show you an example of that later, the invoice, or the retraction from the rights owners. So let's go through some annotation. So what is annotating a receipt or invoice? I'm going to show you two examples, one of an invoice and one of this target receipt. This was done up and shown by Nate McAllister, who runs Hustle Buddies. Amazing guy. You guys should be following him for sure. Lots of great information. If you Google how to annotate a receipt for Amazon, this is like the first image that shows up. So he does a great job here. He's got it highlighted digitally with a little red box going around the information needed and some little arrows with what they are, etc. So that would be annotating a receipt. Don't worry too much about what software you use. Just make sure that the file is saved. Oh, it's either in a PDF or a JPEG. I would save it in both, honestly. I have seen people use, let's see here, I use usually Photoshop or Microsoft Paint, but also Canva will work. There's several programs out there, even a Word document, and then, you know, print it to a PDF. You could do that too. The other one here is an invoice. They have highlighted in red supplier name, business name and address, supplier address. They have all of the ASINs listed out down below here. This was probably used to get ungated for something, but it would be the same thing if you were using this for some sort of IP violation to show the invoice. Other tips that I was thinking about was to always keep the original copy as one copy and then do the annotation. Whether it's an invoice like this or an invoice receipt like this, you don't want to mark up your original in case if you need to change something or if you mess up. You don't ever want to mess up on the original. You want to mess up on a copy. So if I were doing this, I would take this, make a photo of it like he did, pop it into a Word document or whatnot, get it all annotated, and then if the digital annotation didn't work, then I would make a photocopy of this target receipt and annotate it by hand on that photocopy. Some say that the hand annotating works better than digital. For this one, I would just print it out and then mark it up, and then if I needed to print out another one, if I messed up, I could print out another one, and I would just write these in by hand. I don't know if hand annotating works better than digital annotating. I think the digital looks more professional, but I guess there's been some problems with people altering invoices and things like that, so sometimes the hand might be taken more serious. I don't know. Whatever you do, don't alter or forge the invoice. This is important. Amazon does not like people forging invoices at all, and they have a lot more sophisticated software and whatnot to tell whether it's been forged or not. I don't know what that is because I'm not in the forgery business, but I do know that people have had their accounts shut down for changing, you know, like say this instance was, let's see here, say this was to a business name and you shared it with your friend and you just fixed it up to now it's your business name. Don't do that. Don't do that. You will get shut down for sure. Now let's talk about asking for a retraction. If Amazon asks you to get a retraction from the brand owner, you want to ask for that retraction using the email contact in the original policy warning. This is important. You are going to want to ask for this retraction. Whether it happens or not, you still need to do it, because either they will retract it, that's great, or they won't retract it, or they won't even respond, and you can at least show Amazon that you are willing to work with the brand and they were not responsive. It wasn't you not emailing, it was them not being responsive. Now, the email is what was in the original policy warning, but sometimes they give you a fake email or something that's not working or whatnot. If it is a fake email, you're going to want to Google that email and show that it is a fake email and document that as well. I would typically take a screenshot of showing that it's a fake email and put that into a Word document or save it as a file of some sort. That can go into your plan of action, and then you can prove to Amazon that it is a fake email. You can't just say, oh, I Googled this and it was fake. You need to have some sort of screenshot going on, something to show that it is a fake email. You're going to have to keep copies of all your attempts to contact them. For my files, I usually am going through Google through my Gmail to email them, so you can just print, and I print to PDF, so then that way when I do again show my information to Amazon, I can say you can see the attached copies of the emails. I emailed them on day 1, day 3, day 7, day 10, day 14, and got no responses on any of them. You can research the company for additional emails or phone numbers to call. That sometimes helps if you don't get a good email contact originally. You may want to pick up the phone, call them and say, hey, I received an email from so-and-so or from this department, and I'm trying to get a hold to clarify some things. Who can I talk to? Can I email them? Can I have a phone number? Sometimes people have gone through LinkedIn to find people in different departments as well, or contacts for the company. That's an option. I have had my emails ignored many a times, and usually after the 10-day mark, I'm calling my lawyer, and my lawyer will email them, and all of a sudden they're home. It's amazing. I wish the world wasn't like that, but that's why I have my lawyer. If I can't get them to answer the emails, then I will have my lawyer take over for me. The retraction emails that happen will have to come from the email that reported the violation or from the dashboard of that company. So retraction emails have to come from that, but there is a different way to retract the violation without that email. And I'm going to show you an example of that too, because that's what happened to me with Lucetta. In your emails, you need to always be kind and courteous. It helps if you offer to show them the receipts that you do have, and it also helps if you agree not to sell that product going forward, especially if it's something that you bought at like TJ Maxx and it's a one-off. That shouldn't be a problem to agree not selling that product going forward. If you really did buy the items wholesale, I'm going through that right now, and you want to continue buying the items wholesale and selling them, then, you know, be upfront with that as well. This was the only example, a good example that I could find on Google of a letter to a company asking for a retraction. There was a lot of examples of what that retraction to notice-dispute at Amazon.com should include, and I do believe you should include that template, but this was a good little example of somebody emailing a company asking for them to retract a trademark claim. So this one is on a mini waffle maker. It is a little personal, and I think that sometimes helps you out if you explain that you're a small seller supporting your kids or whatever the case may be. Again, tailor it to your own situation. They explain that they purchased the items from a TJ Maxx website and have attached the screenshot of that order. They've removed the products from the store effective immediately and will never sell them again. Please accept the apologies. If you would kindly retract the claims, they would appreciate it. And they give the complaint ID. And let's see here. What else does she say down here? Okay, thanks for time and consideration. So the only thing I would change on this is I would include the template that they need to copy and paste over to dispute@amazon.com, which is this one right here. But for the first part, this part up here, your email to the company should look something like that. Short, sweet, to the point, you know, nothing too fluffy or too long-winded. And then down here I would include the template so that the company just needs to copy and paste. And here's my template for that. So the first part would be more tailored, you know, very tailored up here. And this down here I would then fill out all these X's and include that. So this is the template that the company needs to send to notice-dispute@amazon.com and what it should say. So in my letter I would say something like, below is a template that you can copy and paste when you email notice-dispute@amazon.com and copy paste this in exactly. So I would fill out the seller name, your token, which is on your Amazon seller account. If you don't know how to find that, Google how to find my Amazon merchant token. The ASIN in question, the complaint ID. Complaint ID is very important. And sincerely, and I even fill this part out for them as well. I fill out their name and the brand name. So I put that together in my retraction request letter to whoever did the violation, that initial email from the initial policy warning. This is another template. I like this one better. This one seems a little bit longer and has some unnecessary words, but just wanted to show you guys another template out there. Here is another template. Like I said, you could find a lot of the templates on what to send to notice-dispute@amazon.com, but here is another one. Dear Amazon, we would like to retract our intellectual complaints against seller ID, insert store name, web address, after working with ID. You guys can read this. Again, I think I like this one the best, but it needs to have several things in it. It needs to have your store name, it needs to have the complaint ID, it needs to have the ASIN, and it doesn't hurt if you have your merchant token number as well. Okay, now retraction email doesn't work. Oh goodness, this is what happened with me with Lucetta. So this is what the brand owner finally sent to me, a screenshot of this, and after he submitted this, within 48 hours, I want to say it was a little bit more than 20 hours, I was checking my email all day, it finally got taken off my account. He needed to go to their dashboard. So I guess if you are a brand, and I don't know because I'm not on the brand side, so I'm not quite sure how this looks, but this is the screenshot he gave me of what it looked like on his. It says to use this form if you'd like to retract a violation and reinstate the seller's listing that you previously reported. This retraction must be submitted by the same individual who reported the original violation, otherwise it will be rejected. So I don't know what they were doing wrong. We could never figure that out in the end. We had a few things we figured out at the beginning, but in the end, the email that he was sending, which was off of this, with my seller name, the token, the ASIN, complaint ID from the original email, etc., to Amazon, was not working. So when I called Amazon, they said just go through their dashboard. Tell the rights owner to go through their dashboard and to retract a violation. Put all the information in there and it will get retracted. So I redacted some of this, such as my seller ID and my complaint ID down here, but all this was filled out and it went through finally. It was a pain in the tush. But if the retraction email doesn't work, then this is the other way that they can retract a complaint against you. Plans of action. Let's dive into this. Plans of action. My goodness. I have seen some really good plans of actions out there that get denied. I've seen some not so good plans of actions that got accepted. So it's really tough as to what exactly Amazon wants, but I have some general guidelines. I have some examples for you guys, and I have some great resources here. So let's go through some general concepts here. Be clear and concise. You're going to provide an explanation for all of the issues. You're going to have supporting evidence for all of your items. You're going to highlight any areas in your supporting documents that need to be highlighted. Amazon does not want a bunch of fluff. They do not want to hear about the history of your business. They don't want emotional language. They want to hear about the root cause. This is where looking at your negative feedback, your customer returns, the voice of the customer can give you some insight as to what your issues are. All your invoices need to be annotated and the details listed out. Everything needs to be tied up in a bow and submitted so that it can be looked over and flows and understood very quickly. You used to email your plan of action, but now you go through the dashboard. In this example, this is off on my dashboard, and I've already appealed it, but it will say the product or the reason, product authenticity complaints, the ASIN impacted, and the title, and then there will be this little appeal button. Right now you can view the appeal, but you hit the appeal button. In that appeal button, you can then copy and paste your plan of action, and then you upload all of the files associated with that. These are some of the other emails used in the past, present. Some of these are completely shut down, like seller performance at Amazon. If you email seller performance at Amazon, you're going to get a kickback saying that that email has been shut down now. The notice-dispute is where brands will dispute claims and retract things. You cannot email notice-dispute and really get anywhere. You can also open up a case. So if you have something that's kind of strange or out of the norm, or like, you know, say you've appealed and it's been a week and you haven't heard anything and they said they'd get back to you within 72 hours, you can open up a case and ask for an update. But I wouldn't abuse that situation. Use that as a last case scenario. The other last way that I would contact Amazon with some sort of appeal is through emailing Jeff Bezos. That used to be a thing in the past where you could email Jeff Bezos kind of a Hail Mary and somebody might look at your account and see what's going on. But I don't know if that's even really working these days. Some people have said that it's been over abused and you can't really do that. I guess if you've got nothing else to lose, you can go ahead and try that. But for the most part, you used to email your plans of action, and now you have to hit the appeal button. Some of the appeal buttons do have drop downs too now, so that you don't have to it's getting a little more streamlined. This has come a long way, and this has just been in the last, I don't know, maybe year to 2 years that they've updated and done this seller health dashboard. When I talk about time frames and knowing when people are giving you content and everything, if you're reading old plans of actions or something and it says to email the plan of action in, that was an old piece of information. Now you have to go through the appeal button on your account health. So make sure you are keeping up with the new ways of doing things on Amazon. Popping in and talking about this Facebook group really quick, because this is probably my #1 go-to to ask questions or to be in the know of the most recent issues going on with Amazon. This is Ed's group. It's Amazon Seller Performance Suspensions, Rights Owners, Legal Issues, ASGTG. It's a mouthful, but Very, very informative group. It's got over 60,000 members. Under the files, they've got information. They also have a website that has links to lawyers and resources as well. So this is a very good thing to have and be familiar with. So I highly encourage you to join this group. They also have a website where you can get lawyer consultations. This came out when I was looking for a Voice sample letter to show you guys, but they do a free consultation. So if you have gotten one of these Voice letters and need a free consultation, you can look them up. They've been in the community for years. I've been following them since pretty much day one, so very good to have handy. So common Poa violations. These are kind of the most common ones that I've seen in the threads on plans of actions for different violations that people have been getting. So the first one, inauthentic or trademark from the brand owner. That's kind of what we've been talking about the whole time here. Listing violation is when the product doesn't match the listing. Inauthentic from the customer. Used, sold as new from either the customer or the brand. Expired item, which I read a thread today about somebody getting an expired item for a metal kitchen gadget that does not expire, but it got flagged as expired, so sometimes you have some silly ones in there that you need to fight. Multiple unauthorized accounts. This one was really big. I want to say it was in the fall. A whole bunch of people got hit with their accounts being closed down because Amazon was claiming that they had multiple accounts open, so people had to prove and show that they did not have multiple accounts, and that was kind of crazy times too. I was a little worried about that because it didn't seem to be any rhyme or reason that people were getting shut down for that reason. So that could be scary. My point here though is that there's a lot of different reasons you could have a plan of action. But if you go back to the beginning, you need to state the root cause, state what the root cause for the violation was, how you're going to fix it going forward, etc. And it needs to be tailored. So there is no one size fits all template for a plan of action. Even if somebody shares with you a plan of action, you still need to tailor it and have it be very custom for you and your. So now let's say you have submitted a plan of action and you get a rejection letter. I almost always get a rejection letter off of my first appeal. Seems pretty standard, like, oh, this is your first one, it's going to be an automatic denial. You get this little letter here. This one's a little bit old because right now you go through your account health dashboard to appeal, and this says to email notice -dispute. So this one's a little bit older, but it says thank you for your message. If you do get an email now that says to email notice -dispute, go ahead and do whatever it says in the email. But I believe everything is now officially getting appealed through the account health dashboard. Okay, so this is what the rejection letter looks like, and you need to pay attention to these bullet points. Whatever these bullet points say you are missing, you are clearly missing something there in their eyes. You may think it's perfect, but they are thinking that something is missing. This one also states that if they do not receive the requested information within 17 days of the original suspension notification, your account will remain deactivated. So this is a pretty bad rejection sample that I pulled for you guys, but nonetheless, you need to look at your plan of action, look at what they're asking for here, and make sure that you have addressed everything that they are asking for. Sometimes it helps if you do the exact same format. Proof of product authenticity, root causes, actions we've taken, steps we've taken, why this is, believed to be an error, etc. But anyhow, I wanted to show you our rejection letter. Now let's go over sample plans of. Going to show you several examples of plans of actions that people have posted publicly, and then others have added some great critiques too. Now remember, anybody who's posting their plan of action out there, if you don't have anything nice to say or constructive to say, keep your comments to yourself, and always be kind and courteous. We're here to help each other. The reselling community really needs to be helpful to one another. We already have a hard enough time selling on Amazon with all the shenanigans there. We don't need any shenanigans from other people, right? Okay, so this first one up is a listing violation. It is of a Spanish version book that was listed under an English version book, so it was an incorrect product listing. So here is the plan of action that they wrote out. Not going to read everything to you. Go ahead and pause the video to read verbatim what they wrote, and then all of the recommendations that people said that they would do to make this even better. The only one that I did want to point out was simplifying it to bullet points. Bullet points does seem to be a common theme in plans of action, and get rid of any commentary. That too. Commentary and fluff, get out. This next one is about the garlic press that got an expired violation product complaint, and it's for an item that's a kitchen gadget. It doesn't have an expiration date. So sometimes Amazon's a little bit silly, and it has to do with the bots, and the bots caught this one, saw that it was garlic press that thinks garlic expires, and so all of a sudden that item needs an expiration date. So sometimes Amazon is silly, but what I wanted to point out with this one is they mocked up plan of action. I do like the format where you have what it is you're addressing, and then you have bullet points for that address. That seems to be a really good format that Amazon does like. But for this one, you really don't want to write a plan of action. You want to show Amazon that this does not need a plan of action, that they are incorrect, and right here this guy spells it out. Including the image, explain you've reviewed all your feedback and reviews, there's no type of complaint regarding this matter. Spells it out really good here. And the other thing that I wanted to mention to you guys, that you still may need to open a separate case including all your proof, ask that it be escalated to a captive team. That's a way to get your whatever it is you need to tell Amazon in front of somebody with half a brain cell, is to get it escalated to the captive team. So if you're having a little bit of trouble, see if you can get escalated to a captive team, especially if you're dealing with something like this. That is just shenanigans. This is a layout of somebody talking about their used sold as new complaint. They currently have 450 units stuck. Their plan of action keeps getting rejected, and what can they do? Because the real problem is Amazon is not conducting an inspection of the customer returns and putting them back into sellable inventory. So what can they do? And they've got 3 pieces of advice that I thought were good to point out here. One was they can put a big orange sticker on the boxes that say, attention FBA, if the sticker is broken, move to unsellable condition. So that's an interesting solution I had not heard of. I don't do a whole lot of private label stuff, and I don't really have this problem necessarily, but that was a good nugget of information to keep in the back of my head. You can ask them to do a bin check to prove your items are in the condition you described. This one I have had to do in the past to prove something to Amazon, to get that piece of information, to prove that it was the correct listing or not the correct listing, etc. You can have Amazon do a bin condition check, and you're going to have to open a case and say, I want to do a bin check on this item, this ASIN, and I am checking for whatever the case may be. So then once you get that information back from that case, you can use that in your plan of action. Then last here is they recommend having customer returns sent back to you to avoid this situation. So this guy who is having trouble with his plan of action, he can then instate 1 or all 3 of these items into that plan of action and resubmit his plan of action. So this was a good use of bringing your problem to the Facebook forum, asking for help, getting some good advice as to what you could do to solve your problem, and then you know, he'll have to redo his plan of action, including one or all of or some of these things, and then resubmit. Now, whatever you do submit in your plan of action, Amazon expects you to actually do. So he may want to have, you know, customer returns sent back to avoid this situation. That's an easy setting you can fix in your account and then add into your plan of action and submit. The FBA sticker, that may not be feasible. That may not be within, you know, business parameters to do. You don't want to promise Amazon that you're going to hire somebody or do some sort of crazy checking system or sticker system if you really don't have plans to do it going forward. You want to come up with actual solutions that are actually going to work for your business and then implement them so that they solve whatever problem you had with whatever issue is there. This next one is a couple of slides long, and we're going to go through the first draft, the comments, and then the final draft. And by go through, I mean if you would like to pause the video and read it verbatim, go for it. This is for a used sold as new violation, and what I want to comment on for this one is a couple of things. First being, when I go through my plans of action, I have my Google file, I've got all of my information, everything we've been gathering, all of the retraction stuff in that file for this particular violation, and my plans of actions are going to be listed out for each draft. So when I first start, I'm going to have my Word file listed, for example, as Lucetta POA and then the date. So if it was today, I would call that Lucetta POA 040721, and I do it in Word with very little formatting because now we copy and paste our plan of action over to the health dashboard instead of emailing it. So as little formatting, the better when you're copying and pasting it over there. Sometimes I've had some issues with some of the formatting, copying and pasting it over into the Amazon dashboard. You know, you don't want to get too fancy and then wind up with it looking all garbly-gook over there. What else was I going to say? For this one, they also had bullet points. I like the bullet points. That seems to be an ongoing theme. So this was the original, what they wrote out for a plan of action. We're going to go through some of the comments here. Here is the first chunk of comments. You can pause the video and read those on what they suggested. Then we've got the second chunk of comments here that are pretty, boy, this person put a lot of time into critiquing the plan of action. So very, very nice that they did that for him. Anytime somebody spends their time helping you out with a plan of action, be very thankful for that, especially if they're not charging. So you could read what they wrote out here, pausing the video, and then this was the final plan of action that was approved by Amazon. When you compare this final draft to the first draft that they listed out up here, the final draft just looks much more polished. It's more precise, to the point, addresses the issues. A lot better POA than that first draft was. And that's what you want. You want something that looks polished and Amazon can look at it and say, yeah, this person knows what they're doing. They've addressed the problems. We have confidence that they are going to be a good seller on our platform. The next two examples were pulled off of Google, just searching for POA templates for Amazon. So I don't know if they worked, and I don't know how old they are. But the ongoing theme is to have it set up where you address the root cause, what happened, what you've done to address the problem, and what you'll do to prevent future problems. So when I'm writing my own plan of actions, I usually pull some of these guys up that I have saved in my file, and I will, you know, read them over, see what was said, see how I can improve on it, see if anything's applicable to my situation, and use them as inspiration to write my own plan of action. I'm not looking to copy anything verbatim for sure. I want to tailor it exactly to my needs. So this one was for intellectual property complaints. This one is customer product authenticity complaints. Again, if this addresses your problem, you're going to want to pause the video and go ahead and see what they wrote to get some inspiration for your plan of action. Now I've got another example of a first draft, some comments, and the final draft. This is the first draft that was posted. I'm sorry if this looks a little fuzzy. It kind of looks a little fuzzy. I'm not sure if it's just getting later into the night. It's almost 10 o'clock at night, or if my eyes are just that bad. So I liked this one because it shows an example of somebody that is not submitting invoices because they were not authorized to sell those products, but they have gotten their items, their owners retracted their complaints. So let's say you do shop at whatever store and you lose the receipt and you don't have invoices to show to Amazon for whatever reason. I've seen people, who were donated something and sold it on Amazon and they don't have a receipt, or they got it in a liquidation pallet and they don't have a receipt, or they just flat out lost the receipt for whatever reason. It happens. Try not to do it, but it happens. And this is a first draft of what they did for their plan of action to get their account reinstated. This is some good suggestions that somebody wrote for them. I believe I pulled this one in particular off of the Amazon seller forums. I can't remember exactly, but I mainly got my information from either Facebook groups, Amazon seller forums, or good old Google. Anyhow, so they go through and do some examples here. Again, pause if you want to read what those suggestions are. And then this was the final, or the second draft that they admitted or submitted into Amazon. There we go. Okay, so pause if you need to read that one. I like how they added a senior Amazon listing specialist. We'll train our listing agents by educating them of Amazon's intellectual properties and compliance through a 3-week training program for further insight and choosing of reputable suppliers. They are completely set up with a VA and several employees, so this might have been a pretty large company that did this. But don't promise something like this if you're not going to continue on with it for the life of your company here. So, some other plans of action notes. So, wrapping up plans of actions and some highlights and just things that I wanted to reiterate here is on your plans of actions with your receipts, you're going to want to circle or highlight, remember to annotate those copies of receipts. You also may want to include your credit debit card information, highlighting the last 4 digits of that card that match the receipt and have that card have your name on it. You're going to redact out the rest of the credit card number except for those last 4 digits and make sure that that credit card has your name on it and those 4 digits match up with your receipts, so that, just another level of proving that you made that purchase at the store if you're having trouble with that. If you're rejected, go over those points and make sure your plan of action is addressing each of those points very clearly. Whoever's looking at your plan of action, do not make them think. If you make them think, they will reject you. Plain and simple. It's got to be very spelled out and very simple. One plan of action template does not fit all of your needs. I've shown you several plans of actions for all sorts of different things. You're going to need to tailor it to your business and figure out how you are going to not have this problem happen again. Amazon wants you to recognize that it's your fault and know what you're going to do to prevent it in the future. Amazon doesn't want to hear your excuses. They don't want to hear that you had a bad day. They don't want to hear that it's your customer's fault. They don't want to hear that people are stupid and this is BS. Save that for your friend at the bar. Amazon wants you to recognize it's your fault and know what you're going to do about it going forward. That's it. That's what they want. Keep it simple. They don't care about any of that other fluff. Some of the violations on your account are going to hold way more weight than others. So keep that in mind too. After 6 months, violations will fall off your dashboard. That doesn't mean it's gone. Your dashboard just holds the last 180 days of violations that you have had. That's all you get to see, is the last 180 days. Amazon gets to see it forever. So remember, if it is a very serious violation, you don't want to ignore it, because at the end of 6 months, they may look at your account and see, oh my gosh, you've had 6 months to do something about this, and you haven't done anything. You're neglecting your account, and they might suspend you. I have heard it happen to people. Luckily, it has not happened to me. I don't ignore any violation. I do try to address every violation that I ever receive. So remember that. Even though it's off your dashboard, that doesn't mean it goes away completely. It stays on your record forever. We now come to the third and final section of part 2 of this video on addressing violations, specifically IP claims, with your Amazon seller account. We've talked about gathering up your information. We've talked about annotating your receipts and your invoices, getting retractions from the brand owner, and setting up and doing your plans of action. So even after all of that, you may have been able to fumble through most of that, but maybe you're getting stuck. Maybe you need some help. Now, I love Facebook. I love Facebook groups, and I think for free, it's a great place to post your problem and maybe get some help or direction. And a lot of times they can tell you whether you can muddle through something yourself, or if you're on the right track, or if you're way off and you really need some paid help at this point. Facebook groups, Amazon forums, and Google have helped me a lot. But there comes a time when, you know what? I just need I need the professional help. So I'm going to share with you my lawyer and a bunch of other options for you, and you can find the option that fits your need if you are at the point where you do need some more professional help. Remember, I'm not the professional. I can only tell you what I can only share with you my research and my experience. I am not a professional lawyer at all, or anybody that is giving any legit legal advice. So, first and foremost, this is my lawyer. You can go ahead and Google this. I pulled this from their webpage. Hewitt Law, PLLC. The lady I work with is Casey. She is amazing. I love her. Don't tell her that, but I do love her. She has gotten me out and fixed problems for me. I absolutely love her. I actually had to call her today because I received my second VORIA's notification, and I needed some help. So they charge $450 an hour. Don't quote me on that, but most of my problems are about under an hour to deal with. They have gotten retractions on everything that I have needed a retraction for. I think I've used them officially 4 or 5 times over the last 2 to 3 years. I can't remember how long we've been working together, but it is nice to have that contact in your back pocket when you really just don't know what to do. And the current case that I'm getting into is a little on the sticky side, and it's been a month, and now it's time to loop her in and have her, have her sink her claws into this case and see what she can do on my behalf. I tell you, when you get your lawyer involved, it is just so nice to have somebody fighting on your side, let me tell you. Okay, so this is my lawyer. Highly recommend her. I've been using her for years. Her information is always below in my description, their website. Can't say enough good things about her. Not to say anybody else is bad. I've only used her, so I'm a one lawyer type of gal here. I don't know any of the others based on experience. All of these next services have been recommended to me one way or another, but I have not tried them out personally. So I do bookmark them, and that way I have, quite a few bookmarks, so I have quite a few options depending on what I need. I love my lawyer. But if my lawyer were to cease to exist tomorrow, I'd want to have a backup plan, right? Okay, so this is Ed's group, Amazon Sellers Lawyers Lawyer.com, He runs that Facebook group. He's got free consultations, and then he's got a service button, so that is an option for you. We've got Amazon Assassins. A lot of people have recommended these guys. Again, they've got a service drop down. They do appeal services. They can get reinstated if you are not, if you get suspended. We've got Thompson and Holt, Amazon Appeal Consultants. This is just another lawyer if you want to have a different lawyer option. They saved 69 accounts, were reinstated in March of 2021. So very up-to-date website. I like that. I like to see when people are up to date. They can help you with an inauthentic Amazon appeal and plan of action. Accounts are usually reinstated within 2 to 3 days. So that sounds really good. Maybe somebody you want to check out. This one is a Facebook group that I would recommend joining, eGrowth Partners, and if you join their group, none of my groups are really hard to join. You just have to prove that you're not a bot, you're not there to spam. You can join the group, hit more, and then hit services, and they spell out their services right here. So you can get ASIN reinstatement, cost you $750, account assessment, infringements. I haven't tried out, but they have category approval. So that's interesting. You can look for category approval if you're looking to pay for that service. I don't pay for any category ungating, but maybe you're looking for that. This one is one that I want to talk about for just a second. So if I was not already loving my lawyer, I would probably sign up with Seller Basics. I have several friends that use Seller Basics and love it, absolutely love it. They have really helped with IP complaints. They were instrumental in helping a couple of my friends' accounts get reinstated or get IP claims off back in Q4 when things were really crazy. And they are a monthly service. You pay $99 a month, and you can see what you get here for that $99. So a lot of times there's going to be an add-on if you have specific things going on, but you do get some free stuff. And you know, that hotline, just be able to call somebody and get some help and speak to somebody, could make selling on Amazon and the nerves and anxiety that goes along with it really could, you know, benefit from this $99 a month. So I was talking to my friend because they absolutely recommend this service, and I'm going, well, $99 a month, that's $1,200 a year. It's affordable. It's a chunk of change. Don't get me wrong. If you're just starting out, that might seem really high, but if you're, you know, doing pretty good on sales, $99 is going to be pretty affordable, considering that IP claims can suspend your account and then you could be making no money. You know, that seems very reasonable to me. But I was telling them, you know, my lawyer, I usually only spend between $400 to $800 a year in lawyer bills, and that's less than the $1,200 per month if you tally it out for a year. So we'll see. I like having a backup plan. Like I said, I like my lawyer, but if something were to happen, here's my backup plan going forward. A lot of places do recommend this. A lot of Facebook groups do recommend Seller Basics. They're kind of a fairly new company to my knowledge. I don't think they've been around for a long time, maybe a couple of years, or at least I've only heard about them for a couple of years. We've got another one, JPG Legal. Just giving you some different options here. They've got a basic package, a value package, a safe package. I didn't click on any of these, so I don't know quite what all is included, but you can go to their website and check them out as well. There we go. We have come to the end, very long end of this second part of the video. We have gone over all sorts of stuff. Plans of actions, getting retraction, annotating your receipts. I have shown you half a dozen different lawyers or services that can help you with IP problems and complaints should you get stuck. You can join lots of different Facebook groups and get help in the community as well. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. I've spent a lot of time piecing together all of this information. It's just a lot of information, guys. IP claims, you know, we could talk about them for days and days, it feels like. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did enjoy, give me a thumbs up. subscribe to my channel, turn on the bell notification, all that good stuff. And then in the next video, and third of these videos on IP violations, we're going to talk about preventative measures. I'm going to show you some cool Chrome extensions and things like that. So if you're interested in preventative measures, go ahead and listen to that video. And then last but not least, my last video will be a Q&A type of form. So if you have any questions, comments, or whatnot, please go ahead and leave them down below. Perhaps I forgot something, or you want to make sure that I address something in that video. Go ahead and leave that down in the comments. All right, take care, guys. Thank you.